welcome to the Senate Democratic Caucus. We've invited all senators to join us today, and we have a whole range. But actually, I found out that Agatha and Mike presented already to the Republican caucus. So, you know, we're not behind, and we're not a dollar short. Well, we're many dollars short. Anyway, I'm Allison Clarkson. I'm the Majority Leader of the Senate, and I welcome you all to this gathering. And today, before the governor's address at 1, we're going to take some time to meet our two wonderful candidates for the position of the Sergeant at Arms. And we're going to ask you to come down here. We have Agatha Kessler and Mike Ferrand, who are going to present, and then we're going to give them an opportunity to for them to answer questions. So I need you both to stand sort of near the table because you'll see yourself on the screen. This is live streamed. We get about 60 people watching this after, during the course of the week. And so you have a small but mighty group here, but we have an even larger audience that will watch you later. So I would ask that you each speak for the recording, and I'll ask that everybody who has a question will use one too. So welcome. It's great to have you both. And welcome back, Agatha. We haven't seen quite as much of you. And I believe both are on. And so I'm going to give them both to you for starting. Okay. So Agatha, why don't you start?
Okay.
And I need you in the frame. So if you could stand as close to Mark as you can.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. And do back and forth.
Could you describe the process for starting doing that? Describe why we're having that.
Well, Janet Miller has decided to retire as our wonderful Sergeant at Arms. I think she has been, I don't know how many years she's been. 10 years. 10 years.
15.
Because I remember when Ann Pugh and I went to her and asked her to run. So this is amazing, 10 years. The process is that they run just as the Adjutant General does. And all of us will meet in March, I believe, to vote on March. What's the date? March 1st. March 1st. We will meet as a general joint assembly, and we will cast our votes as we do to retain judges, as we do to elect the Adjutant General. So you have time to consider. You have time to be in touch with Agatha and Mike. They've made they've been in touch with all of us. They are easily accessible. And so this is the beginning of the process from my point of view, is getting to know them. And some of us who've been here a little longer than some of you have gotten to know them both pretty well. But particularly for new members, this is important to meet Agatha and to hear both why they want to run, why it's important to them to do this at this moment. Okay? Right.
Well, I do have some prepared remarks, and forgive me if it looks like I'm reading from a script. It's just I want to hit some key points, make sure you all hear who I am, my professional experience, and how it ties to the Sergeant at Arms office. So there are a lot of senators in the room I know, and there are some senators I don't know, and I'm hoping to get to know you more. I met Senator Renner and Senator Harrison in Senate institutions the other day. That was very nice. Thank you. I apologize. Some of this might be repetitive for you, but I thought I'd spend a few minutes talking about myself as a professional, as a person, and how it ties to Sergeant at Arms. So I first started working for the state 15 years ago, and it started right here in this building. I've had many roles in the building, and I've learned a lot of things. My time at the State House was kind of formative for me as a person because I was a young professional. I grew a lot, both professionally and personally. So a lot of the systems that are in place right now in the State House are systems that I developed or helped to develop. I managed large teams of people. I was responsible for lots of projects, lots of people. That's the professional growth. There was like physical growth too, because I was pregnant in Senate Health and Welfare 3 times with Senator Lyons. Was in that committee at the time, and Senator Ayer was the chair of the committee. And we've been through lots of things together. supporting members, whether it's transactional, like helping with your expense reports or tracking a bill or what the process is, or personal. I've been with members and staff through lots of personal things, losses, gains in their life. But my time at the State House has taught me many skills. And the key skills are customer service, which is making sure that every time you interact with somebody, whether it's a legislator or a member of the public or a person on staff or a police officer or whoever it is, you treat them with respect and give them the time that they need to understand where they fit into the process. And that's what I kind of call customer service. You all know this because you do this through constituent services. You know, you respond to your constituents as quickly as you can with the information. If you don't have the information, you track it down. And I know, because in my current role at the Office of Professional Regulation, we hear from you. We hear from you as legislators. You have questions for your constituents. You need to know the answers. So it's that kind of customer service, constituent service. I learned the platinum rule, which is here in this building, which is treat others the way they want to be treated, not just the way you think they want to be treated, but treat them the way that they want to be treated. I learned from Senator Ayer one of my favorite lessons, which is that you treat everyone that walks into the committee room like a guest. When they walk into that room, you make sure they know why they're there, that they have the resources, you answer their questions, you slow down, and you really help them understand where they fit into the committee process. And when you do that, they can build trust with the system. And fundamentally, my time here, I developed a deep respect for the legislature, for the institution. I've worked very closely with the legislators. When you're in a committee room like that, you hear everything. You see everything. You see the external parts of a legislator and you see the internal parts of a legislator. And I have a fundamental respect for the process because Vermont really does it right. And you are all here because you care about your communities and the institution in Vermont. So, but I've left the building in 2017 and I've learned even more since then. I've learned how admired the legislative process is. I've learned you get kind of like a badge of honor when you've worked here. When I tell people I work for the State House, they said, which steakhouse? You know, I don't know of any steakhouses. I said, no, the State House. I worked at the State House. They said, oh, you work at the State House. Immediate respect. If you can survive here and be successful here, it's worth its weight in gold outside the building. So I'm the Deputy Director for the Office of Professional Regulation. It's a public protection agency right across the street in the Secretary of State's office. And I work with a pretty big group of impressive staff, inspectors, lawyers, prosecutors, administrators, investigators. And I want to make it clear, make a point, I work with law enforcement right now. I work with the chief investigator closely to support him as he supports his team of investigators. And one of the things I've learned, I didn't have a budget role when I was at the State House. I absolutely have a budget role in my job as a deputy director for the Office of Professional Regulation, and how careful you have to be with public funds, and you have to live within your means, and you have to make sacrifices in order to do that. And that is a very important principle in leading a team. So I'll just kind of quickly go through the rest because I want to be mindful of time. And how does this relate to the Sergeant at Arms office? Let's take a drink. It's like a party here with the hummus and the crackers. It's very nice. It's a caucus or a party. You must be responsible for this. Yes. So I am confident that the roles of the Sergeant at Arms, the duties that are outlined in Title II, they will get executed. Whether it's myself or Mike, they will get executed. And if they don't get executed, there's an election a year from now. The process is built this way to make sure that Sergeant at Arms is doing their core duties. I think what it really comes down to is experience and personality. The experience and the personality of the Sergeant at Arms is what sets the tone of the office. It's what then creates a culture in the building. And for me, for those of you who know me, hopefully know this, and for those of you who are getting to know me, I'll tell you that for me, my personality is about loyalty, dedication. I'm thoughtful, I'm respectful, goal-driven, diplomatic, hardworking, strategic, authentic, caring, creative, and spirited, and I'm curious. So if I don't know the answer to something, I will find the answer to something. I'll find the people. Very rarely am I the expert on an issue, But what I am an expert on is finding the experts and pulling teams together. And I've been doing that research to prep for this run. So I've spoken to the state curator. These are basically relationships I already had in place. And I've kept in close contact with people over the years. State curator, Capitol Police, the interim chief of police, former members, current members, staff, the directors of the State House office, and the sergeant at arms. I've spoken with all of them to understand what the issues are. And as I see them, there's still many issues, but the three key are space. There's going to be an expansion of the building. That expansion will happen whoever the sergeant at arms is. It's about the team building and the communication, the how the job is done. The PAGE program needs to kind of be looked at. I've noticed it, just coming in the building, the few times I come now for testimony, the pages have much less to do. Less paper is being delivered. I asked drafting operations, are there digital sign-out sheets now? And the answer is yes. And I thought, oh, what are the pages doing? That was such a fun time to send out all the drafting requests through pages. I know housing is an issue, and I know that there's more applicants for a page, which means there's more rejections, which is not a good feeling for anybody. And I know obviously that security is an issue. And I know this from working in the building, from being pregnant in the building 3 times, from contemplating my own safety in this building and the safety of the others and all the kids that are here. And I know that from talking to the Capitol Police, to the interim chief of police, and I know they're in a period of transition. And Mike and I are like-minded on this because I've heard him speak on this, is that, so I don't mean to take what you're about to say, but they're a period of transition. They're going to have a new chief, a new sergeant at arms, and they're hiring 4 positions and creating a new structure with 2 new sergeants all at the same time. And I've rebuilt teams, and I have a deep respect for the security team in the building. So I'm coming to the end. I reached out to some former members and former staff to put together a reference statement. I didn't want to ask anybody who works in the building to speak on my behalf. And so I've really focused my efforts on reaching out to former members, former staff, and a couple people in the office I work in now to provide some references. I have those here with my resume and hard copy. I can also email them. And hopefully what this does is what I'm trying to do is remind members that I've worked with, like you, Senator McDonald, what it's like to work with me, and to communicate to the new members what it would be like to work with me. And that's it. Thank you, Senator.
Right. Well, that's the beginning. Thank you, Agatha. Mike, come on up, and then if you would stick around to Agatha for questions afterwards. Would love to have you both present first. Great. Mike Ferrant.
Hi, everybody. I am Mike Ferrant, and I am running to be your next Sergeant at Arms on March 1st, along with Agatha. I think the Sergeant at Arms is going to have some challenges ahead, just like Agatha spoke of. There's going to be a new Capitol Police Chief. There's going to be some new Capitol Police officers, perhaps a sergeant, as well as some construction coming to this building, I think, in the next 10 years. And I think it's going to take a careful steward, an experienced leader to really see all of that through with success. I believe I have those qualifications and that experience to lead you and lead that process through successfully. I spent 21 years in the United States Army Reserves as a construction engineer. I led teams from a squad size of 12 all the way up until my last deployment in Iraq. I had to bring 158 soldiers home. Every single one came home. I've overseen large, complex construction projects in very delicate and very sensitive areas. Also, as part of that, I was trained as a security person in the Army for personal security details for our battalion commander and anti-terrorism techniques for buildings such as this. And so I think those experiences will transfer well on day one to this position and this job. I've worked a lot with kids. I was the executive director of a Boys and Girls Club in Lisbon, New Hampshire for 5 years. I was their first director, and that club is still in existence today, serving over 200 youth every day after school in the North Country. I'm actually going to help them with one of their fundraisers this Saturday night. So if you like casinos, you can come, I'll deal poker at the Boys and Girls Club at the North Country Casino Night in Bethlehem, New Hampshire. And I've also been the Scoutmaster of the Boy Scout Troop 1 in Barrie since 2018. So I like wearing multiple hats. I like doing a lot of things. I like staying busy. You all have seen me work here over the last 7 years and what I put into that. So I won't spend too much time on that because you've seen it. I wanted to today talk a little bit more personally about me, about myself, because I come here and I try to conduct myself professionally. And that means I kind of keep my personal life away from you sometimes. But I want to talk to you about, I have 2 seniors in high school. They are graduating from Spalding High School this summer. Chris, my son, he's 17. He's got a girlfriend. They're madly in love. It's so much fun to watch him go through this time in his life and approach graduation and what it looks like, what life looks like after that. My daughter, Melanie, many of you have met Melanie here. She is 18. She is graduating. She has been in Vermont's special education program all 13 years of her school life. And now we're starting to transition with her IEP team. What does it look like after high school for her? And so that's a process that we're going through too. I am married to the most wonderful woman in the world, Holly Ferrant, and we got married in August of this year with my 2 kids right there by our side, and she is fantastic. Some of you may see her if you're in the appropriations committees. As my mom lives in Florida, and I have 2 wonderful dogs. They're rescue dogs. One is Zoe. She's 8 years old, and she's from Texas. And we've had her for the last 8 years. She's wonderful. She's a black lab. And then our newest addition is Nancy. That's her name. And she's 2 years old, also a rescue from Texas, but she's got a little pit bull mix in her. And she's also a black lab. So she's the spunky one, while Zoe just likes to go outside and roam the yard. But that's a little bit about me, and I wanted to share that with you. And come March 1st, I hope that you all make your decisions wisely. And like Agatha said, I don't think you're going to lose either way. I think we're both going to do a great job, either one of us. And so thank you so much for your time.
We are lucky indeed here. And Agatha, here, what? Questions? Yes, Martina and Tom. And if you two would come forward by the
Chair.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
come forward by the table. Great.
And
Martine.
Hi, I'm Martine LaRocque-Ulick. I am a senator from Burlington and represent Chittenden Central. And I thank you both so much for speaking to us today. And Agatha, I was really pleased that you brought up the PAGE program in particular. And I was wondering if either of you have any thoughts on how to expand access to the program, whether it be around language or just making it more accessible to students who might not, it may not be obvious for them, an obvious fit. And I just wanted to share a little anecdote. Last summer, there was a student in my district who really wanted to do the PAGE program, but he missed the cutoff date, and it was because of a language barrier. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, and thank you again.
I can, absolutely. Yes. So the PAGE program, I think, so Mike and I, we have very similar ideas. And I know you also really appreciate and admire the PAGE program. Working in the building and seeing those pages run around, walk around, brings kind of a level of accountability to the whole institution, having youth around. The accessibility of it, it is kind of an exclusive group. I'm not exactly sure how it gets advertised. You know, it's very limited in how it gets advertised. You almost have to know somebody who knows somebody, you know, and the amount of times I've been asked to write a letter of recommendation on behalf of a PAGE. And I always feel mixed about that, because it's like, should they get the PAGE position because they happen to know the right people in the building? And I know Janet has struggled with it, with like random lottery generated through an Excel spreadsheet, but then a legislator's kid doesn't get picked or a staff person's kid doesn't get picked. It's very challenging. So the way forward, because the program needs to be preserved, is to reevaluate it. These are just some ideas off the top of my head, to make sure it's still a meaningful experience for the kids, that's meaningful for the legislators, and maybe even expand it into more of like a civics education, partner with the Secretary of State. They have a new civics civics person. Her name is Robin Palmer, partner with the state curator, in terms of how he's plugged into all of the different facets of the state, and the new comic book that he's working on with the 4th grade level. Kids learn about Vermont civics in 4th grade. So they're making a comic book that's for 4th graders, not for 6th graders. And to fundamentally reevaluate how to make it a meaningful experience for the kids. Now, the access piece, I live in Barrie. It's a very kind of homogenous environment. My sister-in-law teaches in South Burlington, and she said there's 21 languages spoken there. And that's mind-blowing. Like, how do you communicate to 21 different types of people who are learning in different ways? So there's a lot of work to be done in sort of the reducing the barriers to accessing the program.
Yeah, no, those are really good thoughts. There's still a lot of messages being sent around this building from you to each other. And I think right now it's digital. And I don't think the volume of messaging between you has really decreased. I think it's just digitized. And I think the page program is a great way to bring that back to real life, bring that back to physical papers, physical notes, and having them. And if we need more pages, and have one stationed outside of each committee room or popping into committee rooms more often to see if anyone has messages to send, then we can have more young people here. And I agree, it's a great civics lesson. It's a great, you talk to the pages and they will always remember that moment that they were a page in the Vermont State House.
So not a leading question by any means, just looking to hear your general thoughts about security and relating to metal detectors, screening at the doors. What do you think we should be thinking about in the next 5 to 10 years regarding screening protocols and security protocols?
Had to anticipate a question like that. Metal detectors, historically, not a favorable concept for the State House. When I started here 15 years ago, the sign out in front that says, please do not carry a firearm into the State House was controversial. A lot has changed since then. So I would say that metal detectors absolutely should be considered. Single point of entry absolutely should be considered. Having a fast track for members to go through one sort of screening and members of the public to go through another sort of screening absolutely should be considered. All of these things need to be considered, not just for the legislator's safety, so that you can continue to come into the building and do your work without distraction, but for every person who comes into the building. And I always go back to the kids. Just the time in my life I'm in right now with three kids is the State House is the #1 most visited building in the state in terms of state-owned buildings. It's a museum. It's a center of civics. There are always kids in this building that are not a part of the training that staff are a part of and that legislators are a part of. And so it is absolutely essential to consider the safety of every single person who works in this building, visits this building, and there will always be a trade-off between tradition and progress, or between, the doors of the State House are open for all. This is the people's house. There will always be a trade-off between that and the safety of the building. And those are conversations that are had with professionals, with consultants, with experts, and with leadership.
I agree. One of the things that people that visit this place say a lot is, wow, you don't have metal detectors. And wow, it's so open, it's so accessible, you can just walk right in. And I don't want you to lose that one bit. And I don't think you have to lose that. I think there are models of security, there are models of deterrence that exist out there that we can leverage and we can tap into, especially with the new Capitol Police transition going through. When you have partnerships and relationships with agencies in the area and you're communicating effectively, that is 90% of security. And every single after action review of every incident that's ever happened will tell you more communication, more coordination between agencies, and a look at what is impossible happening is very possible. That's what every single after action review of every major incident will tell you. They need to talk to each other more and they need to talk to each other more efficiently. I think that's where that starts, but I do not want to lose the accessibility of this place. That's what makes this so magical and so special. You can secure it without limiting the accessibility. But I do agree with Agatha that every single person here deserves safety and security. And so that has to happen. That has to be a top priority.
I think we have a question from Daughter, and then we'll have one more question, then people can continue and email the phone and then Chris has an announcement.
Thank you. It's good to see both of you. My question's pretty broad. I'm wondering if in 4 to 5 sentences, if you can share with us what you personally believe to be the role and function of the Sergeant at Arms in our State House.
Yes, I can start with that. The role and function of the Sergeant at Arms, and I only have 4 or 5 sentences to say that. Well, there's the Title II duties, which are the ceremonial duties and the page program and security and messages and mail and the rooms and all of that. And I kind of see that, I hope this is okay to say, as sort of like almost like being a mayor, you know, where you're responsible for some core functions of the municipality, like the police force and the library and all those things. But the way you are effective in all of that is in creating relationships and understanding as much as you possibly can each individual person so that you can collectively, when you go to meetings and have meetings with the Capitol Complex Security Group or whoever it is, actually like see the legislators in your mind that you're thinking about. See the legislator that came to you with a concern about, you know, the perfumes, the aromas are so strong, like I can't concentrate in the committee room. How can you help with that? Or someone who might have a stalker, you know, how do you help them with that? How do you develop policies that work for everybody by keeping individual people in mind? So it's about the keeping order in the building while also recognizing it's a community.
I think the Sergeant at Arms is the person responsible for maintaining order and decorum in the people's house so that the people's work can continue freely and unimpeded. I think everything will boil right down to that.
Okay. Are there other questions? People should feel free to be in touch with Agatha and Mike directly. This is just the beginning of this conversation, and you're, you know, and so I'm hoping this is just the beginning. I'm cognizant of the fact some people still haven't had lunch, and that we have to be in the Senate chamber at 5:01 or a little bit before. Chris has an announcement, and I need to speak to, I think, almost everybody before they leave. So, Chris, come on forward. You have to come. Oh my God! Yes, thank you, Mike and Agatha. Thank you so much. Thank you.
While we've been caucusing, the Secretary of State swung by, and I'm making an announcement on her behalf. So as you may know, Director of Elections Will Senning is retiring and moving on to another important elections job. There is going to be a reception for him followed by a movie, and it's this Thursday, the 25th. The reception's at the Savoy. 6:30 is the reception part. 7 o'clock to 9 is the movie. And the movie is a screening of No Time to Fail. It's a feature-length documentary that chronicles the work of Rhode Island election officials who worked diligently to keep elections running in a period of unprecedented scrutiny. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. If everyone could touch base with me before you leave, that would be great.